So just how hot is USC's football recruiting right now? How about 4 commitments in 4 days? Name another program.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you are watching this show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, we're always free. We always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. USC, I guess we'll say they took the weekend off, right? No one was announcing their commitments. But even without USC getting a commitment Saturday or Sunday, or so far early Monday when you're making Locked On USC your first listen every day, they still finished last week with 4 commitments in 4 days. Name me another program that is as on fire as USC is right now with recruiting. You can't. Nobody's comparing. Sure, you got programs that are running close to it. You got Oregon, you got Clemson, you got Ohio State. They're all doing well, but nobody is as hot as USC's recruiting right now. It's literally, I mean, when you get 4 guys in 4 days and they're blue chippers, that's why USC has the #1 recruiting class for the 2026 cycle. So let's review who pledged their allegiance to the University of Southern California just last week. It started with 6'6", 350-pounders, offensive lineman, mammoth offensive lineman, John Fafita. That happened, March 10th? The next day, USC, they went into their Utah backyard, and they got 6'5", 300 pounds of Isun Tafa, another offensive lineman. He decided to jump on board. Later that same day, USC was able to convince a double legacy who went to Notre Dame. Both mom and dad both attended Notre Dame. Both were extremely talented athletes. Well, later that day, their son, Trent Mosley, decided he would rather play wide receiver for USC than at Notre Dame, or where his brother plays at Stanford. So win-win. Essentially, you have one of the best players in the state of California staying home. And then finally, to end the week, 6'4", 290 pounds. He's a defensive lineman, edge player. His name is Jamion Winfield. He's the 11th best player from the state of Texas. He's a top 100 player according to On3. So USC is taking care of business at home, and they're out there kind of cherry picking top 100 guys all over the place. Texas, Georgia, Ohio. Can't forget Sean Alston. So right now, USC is a total of 15 commitments. Let me remind everybody. So I gave you the 4 names that USC got verbal pledges from last week. Those guys are joining Samodi Kadewanga. You've got Jonas Williams, Xavier Griffin, who was just made a 5-star, R.J. Sermons, Brandon Lockhart, Braden Jones, Madden Reardon, Joshua Holland, Shane Alston, Andrew Williams, as well as Jamiron Tron Baker. So there's your 15 commits. 67% of that class, excuse me, almost 7 out of every 10. I know you only have 15. They're considered blue chippers. Blue chippers are 4 and 5 stars. That's all you need to know. Something else you need to know. Of the 14 guys, 9 are from California. Okay. Of those 9, 8 from Southern California. And of those 8, 3 of them are coming from probably the toughest league in the country, the Trinity League. We're talking about, the league that features Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, Servite, Santa Margarita, Orange Lutheran, J. Sarah. It's a really competitive, deep deep high school league. And here's the best part for everybody. For all of you USC fans, the coaching staff is just getting started, right? USC is still in line for a bunch more, a whole bunch more in California. A lot of blue chippers in this cycle. So it's like it's the perfect opportunity to load up as many as you can. Because remember, USC wants to bring in their biggest high school recruiting class in USC history. So they've got 15 right now. There could be as many as 20 more coming. And again, because California is so deep, you want every spot available, right? I've gone over the visit lists that are coming up between now and the end of spring camp, which we still haven't gotten the official start date yet. I'm still being told unofficially through sources that it's going to be March 26th, so a little over a week away. And then once schools get out for summer, the unofficial visits are going to kick in. And that's where we're going to see USC really strengthen its grip on that #1 recruiting class that they have right now. So you got guys that are going to start showing up during the spring as well as their official visits. Guys like Vlad Diakonov, Sam Utu, the offensive lineman, the running back Deshaun Rudeau, California guys. You know who else is California? Tom Tapui, Talanoa Ely, Mark Bowman, Brandon Arrington, Keeney Pepe, Haven Finney. USC is in a strong spot for all of those guys. And again, each one of them, they've got visits coming up, multiple visits. Some of them have already taken multiple visits to USC. So again, yeah, USC's in a good spot for each of those guys. Some might say USC leads for all of them, most of them, some of them. You guys can argue about that. Let me know in the comment section. We all know that everyone is paying recruits to commit. That's just how the game is played today. But how much is it going to cost? And I'm not just talking about dollars and cents. We know NIL, revenue sharing, all that's coming into play. But I think there's going to be a bigger cost attached to this. And it's something we're going to have to keep our eyes on. We're talking about, and I'm using finger quotes right now, kids, 17, 18, 19-year-olds having a lot of money, more money that they probably know what to do with. And it's starting to affect them. Again, I'm going to dive into that in the next segment. I started seeing some comments. We're going into March Madness with basketball, and you're starting to hear some stuff. And it's going to carry over into football too. So let's talk about that next. Are you looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to eat and heat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or if you're into that keto stuff. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. If you have a hectic schedule like I do, the convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off and use code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades Supply House. When you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast and they can do it from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra package or an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn to do the same. Join the Trademasters program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use promo code SH5, you're going to get 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. USC's recruiting efforts, they're paying off, right? They have the #1 ranked recruiting class. And I think, hopefully, we're going to start seeing those dividends start showing up on the field. I don't know how many of those, obviously, the guys in the 2026 class won't show up on the field for USC this year. But in the future, you're going to start seeing what it means when USC is bringing in the best players, how strong they can be. But these recruiting wins, they're going to come with a cost. Winning comes at a cost. It takes a physical toll. It'll also take an emotional toll on you. I mean, it's taxing. And I'm just curious. I'm wondering, are the kids who are coming out of high school, are they ready for what's ahead? We know that the powers that be at USC have invested a lot of time, energy, financial resources to help them get that #1 recruiting class up to this point. And look, so far, I don't think anybody's complaining. At least right now, nobody's complaining. Winning is it's what competition's all about, right? But I'm also starting to notice a trend here. I've noticed that college players who are right now being paid millions, they're expressing their emotions. They're starting to feel the pressure of having to produce on the court, on the field, having to justify those 6- and 7-figure bank accounts that they have. Again, finger quotes. The kids today, they're learning life lessons. They're learning the same lessons that adults have to deal with. And these young men, they're willingly taking on the responsibilities and the consequences of being a semi-professional athlete. They wanted this, right? They wanted to be paid. So should we feel bad for the players because they might not be able to handle the emotional, the psychological pressure that comes with being paid and being paid to win? Look, it doesn't matter if you play a sport at USC, Alabama, Kansas State, Nevada. College sports are now a semi-professional training ground. The only difference now is you get signing bonuses. You get weekly, bi-weekly paychecks, monthly paychecks. I'm not sure how the whole revenue sharing is going to go, but they're going to be receiving paychecks. Maybe saying blame the kids is the wrong way of going about this, but they wanted this. Remember, they wanted to be paid. They wanted a piece of the financial pie. In some cases, they demanded it. This is how we got to where we are today. They wanted to be paid. We're talking about 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They wanted to be paid for their entertainment value. Fine. I don't think anybody disagrees that they deserve something. It's where they started and where they're going, where they're at. That's the problem right now. And I'm not sure they're prepared for all the nuance, for all the pressure that comes along with it. Think back when you were 17, 18. If someone said, let me just put it this way. When I was 18 and someone gave me $1 million, yeah, accountability, responsibility, those weren't my strong suits, just not yet. I mean, my brain was still forming. I was still trying to figure out, yeah, there's a lot going on when you're 18. You think you know everything, but you know nothing. I think everyone just needs to be able to accept the fact that amateurism is over. The idea of watching kids play college football or basketball for the name on the front of their jersey, that's over. Even if you don't have the name on the back of your jersey, that's what they're playing for. It's over for the fans, it's over for the schools, for everyone involved. And when I say everyone, that includes 18-year-old Johnny Hotshot, who just said they just want to be treated fairly. They want to be paid just like everybody else. Fine. You got your wish. The genie's out of the bottle. But it's now at the point now where a college athlete's bank account, it's defining who they are. And that's exactly what's happening right now in 2025. The kids and their families, they wanted to be treated fairly. They didn't want to feel like they were indentured servants, only being able to receive, a free education, free room and board, free health care. None of that wasn't enough. They still get all that, and they're getting a whole lot more now, too. Paying for players, whether they're playing for USC or whomever, that's one thing. We just kind of have to accept that's the way the world is. That's part of the world we live in now with college athletics. It's starting to trickle down to high school too. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole yet, but it's there. But what happens when these players that USC's recruiting, that USC's paying, what happens when their efforts on the field don't pay off with wins? Does that mean these teenagers, these young adults, these semi-professionals, are they now open for the criticism? It happens to the pros. Fans start questioning their NIL and their financial investments. I mean, NIL, name, image, and likeness. You've got fans who will pay hundreds of dollars for jerseys and apparel, right? Then you paying for the cost of a ticket to go to a game. In the pros, nobody has any problem criticizing Caleb Williams when he throws an interception, or just unleashing holy hell on Pete Carroll when he calls the wrong play call in the Super Bowl. Well, nobody has a problem when that happens because they're professionals. They're being paid and they deserve to be criticized. Whether it's fair or not, that's the nature of the beast that comes with the territory. Again, when those things happen in the pros, the untrained eyes, they come out from everywhere. They're like cockroaches. They make their voices known. Is that what today's teenagers are looking for? Are they ready to deal with that? Can they handle that in college? They can barely handle rejection from a girl, or a girl from a guy. Girls can handle rejection from a guy. Are they ready for that public criticism? Being booed at halftime when they're going back to the locker room. I'm old enough to remember when booing your displeasure at a bunch of kids was unheard of. How dare you do that? How dare a fan boo a kid who's trying their best, but they're not winning games? Well, those kids, those young men, they're being paid really well, and some of it's coming out of the fans' pockets. They're supporting NIL. And now these fans have a certain expectation level. They want to see a return on their investment. The last thing they want to see is a young man being upset that he's not performing, and now he has to hear the fans complain about it. Welcome to the real world. That's the price you pay to wear the cardinal and gold. If you want to be paid and you want to compete at the highest level, You gotta, if you want to have your cake, sometimes you got to eat it. If you want to be paid like a professional, you're going to be treated like a professional. I'm not saying you should send death threats and tell a kid they suck and you wish they were never born. Don't cross the line. I think everybody understands the point I'm trying to make here. But for the majority of teenagers, the ones who are being recruited to play college football and college basketball, the ones with bank accounts with 5 or 6 zeros in it, they're finding out there's a tax to be paid. And again, I'm not talking about the Uncle Sam's tax. I'm talking about paying a tax to the folks who paid Johnny Football, Juju Basketball to perform, regardless of what's going on in their lives. We get it. You got to go to class, allegedly. You got boyfriend problems. You got girlfriend problems. Mom and dad are yelling at you. You got roommate issues. None of that matters. And then you bring them, you throw in the transfer portal that kind of gives these young men and young girls, women, excuse me, another opportunity. If they're not happy, well, we'll just jump in the transfer portal and we'll go get paid somewhere else, and we'll start that vicious cycle all over again. I don't know. Earlier, I mentioned that players are starting to express their feelings, but I remain hopeful that everyone's still playing the game because they love to win. They love the competition. Everything that goes along with being one of the best. I hope they still love that more than just getting paid. I think most of the kids still do. I really do. But again, I'm reading some comments. I'm listening to some interviews after games during these conference basketball tournaments. And I hear about how players are talking about how coming in second place isn't that big of a deal when you put everything into context, because we still have a chance to redeem ourselves in the playoffs, in the big dance. For example, Alabama's, they got a player named Chris Youngblood. They lost to Florida in the conference tournament. This is what he said. Quote, "It's emotional, but in this situation, you got to put your emotions aside because at the end of the day, we'll probably be a 2 seed. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of teams out there that would die to be a 2 seed." I get what he's saying. I really do. It's not the end of the world. We still have a great chance to win the championship. But I kind of got a whiff of, all right, we got paid. We're still going to play. We didn't get number 1, but I'm okay with that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's the way I interpreted it. You got Umar Ballo at Indiana, who said, "It's not fair that for 5 months out of the year, fans get to talk trash about paid athletes." That's exactly the point I'm trying to drive home. Are these young men, are they ready to handle this type of pressure, the emotional toll that it will take on you? Did any of you see that $2 million player from Kansas State crying after they lost in the conference tournament because he didn't feel like he met the expectations that were heaped upon him because of how much money he was being paid? I can empathize with that. I get it. You never want to see anybody crying, but it just shows you these young men aren't prepared to handle these types of responsibilities and everything that comes with it. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out as we go forward, as we start getting more evidence. How much will the mental strain play a role on these players? They wanted to be paid. Well, they're being paid. Are they able to handle it? That's the challenge they have going forward now. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Using FanDuel keeps you in the action with tournament games. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. And it's easy and it's fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Like there's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Speaking of tournament hoops action, check this out.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, so we know the men aren't dancing, right? They're not going to the big dance. Maybe they get an NIT invite. We'll see. I didn't see them in the CBI. However, the women of Troy, they got a #1 seed in the big dance. And their first game, their first matchup, they're going to host North Carolina Greensboro Saturday afternoon at Galen Center. In their region, they're in the #4 region, Region 4. #2 seed is UConn. So USC has a chance to play the team that beat them in the Elite Eight last year, although USC did beat UConn this season, was back in December. So USC is the #1 seed in the region #4. UConn's the #2 seed. When USC gets by UNC Greensboro Saturday, they're going to take on the winner of the 8-9 game, which is #8 seeded Cal, #9 seeded Mississippi State. So you can see an old-fashioned Pac-12 reunion if Cal holds serve. And then in that region, so Spokane is the region. They break these into pods now. You have the teams with the better records play at home. In Lexington, you have #4 Kentucky versus #13 Liberty, #5 Kansas State versus #12 Fairfield. In the Norman pod, you have #3 Oklahoma hosting #14 Florida Gulf Coast, and then you have #6 Iowa versus #11 Murray State. And then going back to Storrs, Connecticut, #2 UConn versus #15 Arkansas State. #7 Oklahoma State will take on the 10th ranked South Dakota State Jackrabbits. As I mentioned, last year USC fell to UConn in the Elite Eight. It looked like the Trojans were going to make that Final Four. USC got a slight bit of a revenge. They beat the Huskies back in December, 72-70. So we'll see if they can make it 2 in a row over UConn, which once you get into postseason action, there's a reason UConn women's basketball is considered the premier program, or one of the premier. USC used to be that. They're getting back. They're almost there. So here's something interesting. If all the #1 seeds hold serve and make it to the Final Four, these are going to be your matchups. USC versus UCLA, which got the #1 overall seed. The other two #1 seeds were Texas and South Carolina. If everything holds true to form, both Final Four matchups will be the 4th time each of these teams will have played each other this season. We know USC and UCLA played 3 times. USC swept the regular season. UCLA got them in the final of the Big Ten tournament. Same thing applies with Texas and South Carolina. All I'm going to say is this. Good luck, women. We'll talk about you for a few minutes after you play each game, but I'm hoping this time next year, we're talking about the men as well. It'd be nice to see the men get an invite. It'd be nice to see them sitting in front of the USC student section like the women did. Have the whole TV setup going. getting their reaction. Maybe next year. This year, it's all about the women of Troy. The #1 seeded women of Troy taking on UNC Greensboro Saturday afternoon at Galen Center. So get your ticket, get out there, support Juju and her friends. Let's see how far the Trojans can make it. All right. That's it for this episode of Locked On USC. I will be back again tomorrow with another episode. We do this 5 times a week. There's going to be some recruiting news coming up. And this is the place you're going to get it. So till then, everyone, you know what to do. And don't forget, Locked On College Basketball and WeAreSC.com.